So. Hello, everyone. Just hanging out tonight, taking it easy, adjusting the old headset. I'm wearing my sleeping headset. I got the long hair going on. So to do a little work online and hang out with you guys. We got a ton of sun over the weekend. It's a beat up nose right there. Hello, everyone. So I'm using StreamYard, and they've just incorporated a live comment box. Not much editing we can do there to make it any bigger. We'll see how well that works. You can still show comments here. But what they've added, you can see a little box on the right, maybe, where the comments will just pop in as people leave their comments. A heads up to everyone. I'll probably give this heads up a few times during the stream. I might at any moment bust into Spanish or Portuguese, depending on who is interacting. And I'll actually be doing some work in Spanish a little later on. So hopefully you either speak the three languages or, this is more likely, you simply enjoy the sound of my voice. I'll go back from a big weekend out in Montana with the rugby club where I coach. And I helped coach a U19, under 19 select side. Great experience. One of my sons played. A lot of fun. I drove the school bus back. For years and years, I have resisted driving this bus. I have insisted on not driving this bus. But finally, we're just simply out of drivers. I practiced a little bit. It was fully legal, just for the record. And, it was not as big a deal as I thought. I mean, I was terrified of driving that thing. One of the reasons I kind of insisted on never doing it before, never learning how, was that, for me at least, coaching is quite emotional. I was just an assistant coach in this thing, and it was after. Still, I was not done dropping every single kid off and home until 3 a.m. It was madness. And you can see, got a ton of sun, and the nose is destroyed. How's everybody doing? He's several on X, on Facebook, and on YouTube watching. Even one guy on Twitch. Madness. I never stream to Twitch anymore. Drinking a little hibiscus tea with vodka. You may be able to see. I didn't even bother straining it. Yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. I'll get my work up in just a second. Let's get some music back on. I'm going with the generic music, just as a little background. So there's no risk of having this thing anger the robots. All right. So before I get started on a little translation, I might go through a little routine that I often do, which is flip through my notebooks and get lines down into my poetry drive. So this is my active folder. Hold on one second, guys. All right. So if you look at the screen, you can see I've got this. I've opened the holding folder inside active. Right. So these are my active poems, ones I'm still working on. This match collector poem is going to be in here for a long time. Basically got 3 poems of what could potentially be, I think it's a total of, I'm following a theme inspired by something outside. It could be over 160 of these things. I'm just keeping them in one file. As I finish poems, I kind of publish them, but I'm not ready yet to move them into a permanent status. So I publish on my Substack, but I'm not ready to move them into permanent status. I put them in this holding folder. So this, like, I live in my childhood's future. I published on my Substack last week or the week before. And actually today someone shared it very generously on an article, like poetry that's going on Substack. But this is something I've published, but I'm not sure if it's done yet. To be honest, this particular poem doesn't even have me convinced. I'm glad someone appreciated it. And when I dropped it, the people in my circle did not react very widely, which, that sort of is what it is. I feel like this, I think what's going to happen with this is that it's going to stand complete, and I encourage you to go read it on my Substack. Joffrey, what is my Substack? How do I not know that? It's Word Horde. Anyway, it'll probably inspire some other poem. Anyway, so that's what's in holding and active, the stuff that I'm working. And in this folder, I will pop up new documents and take half-baked phrases or even like fully developed poems. There are all sorts of things in my notebook. And I'll kind of flip through. Sometimes in my active notebook, there'll be something that's weeks or even months old that I end up jotting a couple more things down and then putting it into my Google Drive. But I've been meaning to go back over my last 2 notebooks before, because I know there's a ton of stuff in here that I want to move somewhere workable. And the fun thing is, half of the things I move from a notebook into my drive follow the path that had been set in the notebook, and the other half don't. That's part of my process. Anyway, I think it would be a cool stream hangout thing to have a camera on my notebook as I flip through, but I don't have the second camera set up now. Timothy, love seeing how people do their organization. Someone with a high creative drive, very little organizational instinct. All of it has to be learned. Your system has meat without being too bulky. Good. I hope so. I have to say, though, I would describe myself in the same way you're describing yourself. High creative drive, very little organizational instinct. But I think over the years, a system that works well, is efficient, has evolved. I think often creative people are burdened by their creativity when it comes to organization. And that's not something I struggle with. I struggle with organization in the generic way, but not in the way that artists do. I don't have that burden of feeling like I'm killing my art by organizing it. And some of that may just be a function of age and having experienced a lot of the productive process. But things come and go. You need to be willing to create and destroy and create again and let things die. Actually, so speaking of this, it was not my intent to show this, but so this is all under worthy. Okay, this is my worthy folder inside. So I have writing and then poetry and then worthy. Ooh, I judge it worthy. Why do I judge it worthy? Because I also have an unworthy folder. But I wasn't willing to delete them. That's like my little indulgence. But I know that they're not, maybe. So I've kept these, and I have done this with a few, where I might go back and use them as an idea for something. But they're past the point even of being a draft. I have judged these to be crap, but I might be able to, hose it all down and find a flake or two of gold. There may be a lyrical phrase or a line or two in there that I might rescue for something else. So yeah, that's my unworthy folder. This PDF. So someone asked me to go to their high school class and tell them about my creative process. So that was actually 4 notebooks ago. Yeah. So the notebook before my current one. This is my current one, upside down. My current one. With a shout out to Christchurch, Missoula. Reformed Seminary, Evangelical Seminary. And Pumpkin Rugby at New St. Andrews. That's my current notebook. These are my last 2 notebooks before that. One that my wife made. And then this one, I put a couple of stickers on it. See, a sticker from a conference from my church. That paintbrush is a sticker from my wife. The deer was a print, but of a painting my pastor's daughter made. Anyway, the notebook before those 3. So sometime last year. So they wanted to know how my creative process worked. So I actually, let's see here. It's actually zooming in, yeah. Just kind of showed some actual pages. So this poem about a duck definitely turned into cormorants crushing snail eggs at the edge of the dock. That was the first idea. That was the picture. And through it ended up becoming a shape poem, shaped like a duck, not a cormorant. Where did the words for it come? Yeah, I'm not sure I have those here. You say I returned to that line, to that idea. I really liked that idea of cormorants eating snails. But what ended up coming out was a poem shaped like a duck. And I actually mapped out some syllables. I think each quack represented 2 syllables. And you can see I like to work with etymologies and cheat, really, by using the meanings of that, these cognates that actually kind of bear different loads in different languages, and use the load that is the primary load in another language, not the primary load in English, but then I make that other language's primary load what I'm using in English. It can create kind of an old-fashioned or uncanny or romantic feeling, and it is absolutely a shortcut. I think one of the many reasons to learn other languages is to just become a philologist, a filiophile, and a lord of words. Words generally, right? Not just English, but English. Your English gets better. So I don't remember exactly what I told this class, but these are the bits of my notebook I showed them. You see, sometimes I scan out my lines in a way to help me see. Sometimes my pages have 2 lines on them that are just a note to myself, and then nothing ever comes of it. Lines from other poets or musicians. This day is filling up my room, and if I could, I would break into flower. Are lines from Innocence Mission songs, or from the same Innocence Mission song. Is the T.S. Eliot line, or engaged in doing complicated long division sums. So here I was working on a poem about a raccoon, and so for obvious reasons, I don't remember exactly what the trigger was, but so T.S. Eliot's poems about cats were coming to mind. I remember what it was. So a raccoon is a master criminal who can defy the law, just like Macavity. Yeah, so you can actually see that I have my raccoon poem here on the left, my duck poem, my dragonfly poem on the right, all kind of working at the same time. I think how to attract dragonflies would be a great title for 1,000 different works. How to attract dragonflies. That would be a great name for a memoir. Be a good name for a poetry collection. It could be a good name for a dating manual. Yes, that's what that was. Anyway, back to my worthy. Boo-doo-boo-doo-boo-doo-boo. This is hibiscus or jamaica with a bit of vodka. All the ice is melted. It's hot in here, yo. All right. Regarding how to attract Dragonflies. I have an entirely blank folder on Drive called Fireworks for the Blind because the phrase popped into my head at 12. Dude, yes. 14 years later, I'm still swearing I'll fill it someday. Yeah. I have no idea what you have in mind. You may have nothing in mind, and that's why it's sitting there blank. That is a good phrase. Wow. You go so many places with that. All right. The wiles of the devil are ever the stage upon which the sons of God are proved. So that was a line. Do you think it was Kool-Aid, Timothy? Yeah, I mean, oh, wine. It could have been wine. Yes. Yeah, it's hibiscus. I mean, there's still vodka, something to stress the liver. So that line I just read, one of my pastors said from the pulpit, and this particular pastor is usually very careful to cite sources, and he didn't. So this way of phrasing things is not really necessarily the way I would guess he would phrase things. It does sound like someone else's voice, but he didn't give credit to anyone else. Now, when I say that, I just want to make it clear. I think when unless you're giving an academic talk, when you're speaking in front of people, you should use phrases and lines that people will recognize or that people won't recognize. And you shouldn't get bogged down by always crediting certain lines or certain thoughts. Or if you know where you got this thought from, you don't have to always say, as C.S. Lewis says, just say the thing. I don't stress about these things. However, this pastor does usually do that, and he didn't with this. So I actually wonder if it's his original line. The wiles of the devil are ever the stage upon which the sons of God are proved. It even has a little bit of native rhythm, so I think it is a quote. Maybe he's learning to relax about citations. I have a little note here, humble myself, humiliate myself. So in Spanish, to kneel is humillarse. And you could translate that as either humble myself or humiliate myself. I remember years ago, I wrote an article. There was some feminist freak out in Spain about women who were talking about the act of kneeling. They were using this humillarse. By the way, okay, so are you guys seeing a gray line behind my face? Like imposed, kind of imposed above it? You're not, right? Anyway. And there's some American feminists got hold of it and were flipping out, because especially in English, I mean, you're kind of translating this as humiliate myself before God, humiliate myself before my husband. When really it's humble myself, except it is humiliate. Like it's and very concretely attached to the idea of kneeling and physical submission, but without the load in English of abject groveling, I think Americans particularly, the idea of humility, of humiliation and humbling is automatically repulsive. Okay, so these lines I'm looking at now, let's take a look. They might actually be... Where would I have put these? Theological. Let us mouth. That was the one. Yeah, so I have some lines that didn't make it from my notes that this poem came from. I think I'll save them. That may be all there is to keep. Okay, I need to look something up here. Roots of pomegranate and peach. Yeah, I think this line is a line I never did. Oh, this is my daughter's, a poem my daughter wrote. Yeah, so I think that this is a line I need to save. And since it's kind of food related, I think I'll chuck it in the old... Oops. I'll chuck it in here. I'll write it the way I had it in my notebook. I want that stress. So again, just preserving little lines I've written. just to see what I might do with them. Dum, dum. So this is something that happens often. Boa noite, Marcos. Tudo bem? How are you? This is something that happens often where I start. So I had this line in my head, it is good to die at sea. And it was going to be, I don't know, more Latin feeling, more Spanish, maybe even more to do with the Americas and explorers. It ended up being very warlike and very British. So you can kind of see here. It's good to die at sea. And the line's taking shape. But very right at the top, arriving in Cape Canaveral. So we know Cape Canaveral is the space station now, as the or the base, not space station, but where the space shuttles were launched from. And I thought that it would have been interesting to contrast our modern association with the meaning of Cañaveral. So this, cane fields. So it's Cape, it's Cape cane fields, and kind of go into the age of discovery and the age of exploration with it. Maybe even go all the way to Florida now. The poem ended up going in a completely different direction, but it's a line I'm not quite ready to have die yet. Or an idea. Or an idea here for a poem that never happened. The greater we make Achilles and Agamemnon, the greater the tragedy. I don't take Achilles' word. Just notes to myself to remember certain things. Aeschylus informs my negative view of Agamemnon. All right. This deserves a whole other. I don't know what I was doing with this. Something to do with mouths and different kinds of poems. This deserves a file of its own. E aí, Marcos, tá fazendo o quê? Já são as 1 da manhã, né? Sorry about that. Okay. breath marks for haiku, bite marks for American cinquains. Loud slurping for Whitman. Chewing with your mouth open for Ginsburg. See, I have to do this so I can put my notebooks to sleep. Long mastications. Masticating for Pope. Thoughtful chews for Wordsworth. Okay, and then this is for chomping for Milton. Tearing bites for Hopkins. So these are not lyrics, obviously. Each of these is an idea. Acabei de comer uma pizza, vou fumar um fornilho agora. Cara, tá vivendo a vida certa. E hoje é quarta, né? Hoje é terça. Olha, uma pizza e uma pipa. Pizza e cachimbo cairia bem no meio da semana, hein? Proveito. I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote this, but I think there's something to it. Sipping bone broth. Elliot. And so often I'll just write down a line of poetry, and I have no idea why I wrote it down. Some of you will recognize that. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan, the stately pleasure dome decree. Actually, on Canon, I believe on the Canon app, is my reading of that poem. Boom, boom. That's all I got down for that. Leciono sim. Pode me mandar WhatsApp. Ou, se você não tiver o meu WhatsApp. O Insta eu não respondo muito bem, mas no X. E só para tu saber, eu cobro $25 americanos. E isso é o meu preço para brasileiros. Eu não consigo ir debaixo disso. Mas, cara, seria um prazer. E eu faço, assim, projetos bem definidos. Eu vou para os Estados Unidos em 2 meses, quero estudar nesse período. Ou eu quero estudar por um tempo indefinido, ou tenho um projeto, sei lá o quê. Então não é totalmente independente, é você e eu. A gente paga por mês, você pode parar ou restaurar as aulas quando quiser. Total liberdade. Mandar o WhatsApp eu não vou mandar não, mas o meu X, assim, no stream, né? Mas o meu X tá aí. Joffre Sweat. Sou eu. Aí pode mandar mensagem aí. Aí é você que decide a frequência. Então, e claro que né, as suas necessidades, os seus objetivos, o seu saldo. Perfeito, perfeito. Então, para assim, fazer por muito tempo, eu sugiro fazer 1 ou 2 vezes por semana. Mas se você quiser fazer um intensivo, ou você está indo de férias para Miami daqui a 2 meses, sei lá o quê, aí a gente pode fazer com mais frequência. O ideal é fazer aula 3 vezes por semana, mas com os adultos isso não acontece tanto, né? Não é só questão de tempo ou dedicação, mas também é questão do saldo e a questão financeira, né? Então, 1 vez por semana, 2 vezes por semana. Isso pode mudar também, né? Então, começar com mais frequência e depois de 3 meses ir para 1 semana, por exemplo, né? Para aí manter, né? E ir crescendo com menos velocidade, talvez, mas isso acontece normalmente mesmo assim, né? Você vai dominando, e mais que você domina, ou mais que o crescimento é mais sutil. Então é legal começar com o intensivo. Mas é você que decide. E eu desenho tudo para você, né? Então não é um programa, é o que eu invento. Conforme os seus objetivos e a minha opinião profissional do que você precisa e que mais vai ser aproveitado pelo cliente, né? Por mês não, meu querido. Por hora. Por hora. É. Então, por hora aula, que é 1 hora completa, né? Então, se você já estudou inglês, às vezes você compra 1 hora e são 50 minutos. Hora completa. Mas são 25 por hora. E esse realmente é o meu mínimo, é o preço que eu dou para os brasileiros de confiança, né? Ou os brasileiros que vêm do meu canal de YouTube. Aê. Então, essa noite ou amanhã eu vou ler a sua mensagem, a gente vai e vamos ver, quem sabe. Aí mais uma coisa, dá para fazer, a gente pode consultar por Zoom, né? Ou Google Meet, ou o que seja, conversar por vídeo. Eu não cobro por isso. Assim, para conversar sobre o potencial de fazer uma aula, olha, a gente conversa aí, eu não cobro. Oh, I did end up writing something from that line of my pastors, the wiles of the devil. The devil's wiles are ever the stage upon which the sons of God are proved, and man plays through his every age to find the post divine have moved. Did I put that anywhere? I don't think I put that anywhere. I think I might have put it on like my ex account, but the devil's wiles are ever the stage. Ay, what am I doing? call this devil's sanctification for now. That is right, my dude. What country are you in these days? That's the real question we must ask ourselves. Good to see you, Octavius. Yeah, I probably stream once or twice a year, not often. But on Twitch, even less than that. Gonna Google something here. All right. Ephesians 5. Everything made visible is light. Everything, therefore, which is made manifest is light. Everything that is illuminated becomes a light. All things that are exposed are made manifest by the light, but whatever makes manifest is light. Were you visiting Romania, or were you actually living there for a short time? I was actually talking about Romania yesterday with a friend, or the day before yesterday. A Serbian friend. We were talking about Romania. Both. Nice. Well, I hope you're well, my brother. The Wycliffe Bible was very much based on the Vulgate. Forsooth, all things that be reproved to the light be made open. Forsooth, all thing that is made open is light. For all thing that is showed is light. And these are beautiful lines. Yeah, I'm living in a cold part of the U.S. now. And I visit Brazil about twice a year. In fact, I have... Here, I'll show you something. Through my church now, I have a ministry to Brazil. And this takes me down to Brazil once or twice a year. I just put out, so this thing right here that my cursor is floating over is a little mini course I just put out today. Yeah, so this is my website's ministry. Theology, education, history, and culture for a new Christendom. So it's media resources for the Brazilian church. And we've got a group of volunteers who translate. So this was translated by someone else. So is this one. So is this one. In fact, all the translations are for somebody else right now that are on the front page. So yeah, so I'm actually going down to Brazil later this year. Yeah, I don't know when the last time we talked was, but in September of last year, I was in Brazil, which is where I filmed this. A little small town park. It makes me happy. So let's see what Young's literal translation puts for this. Everything that is manifested is light. All things reproved by the light are manifested, for everything that is manifested is light. It's a particularly beautiful line, and someone should do something with it. Anything that becomes visible is light. So what I wrote was, everything made visible is light. So I think I had in mind here something contrasting the Hebrew idea of glory as weighty, heavy, and the Greek idea of glory as bright. And I didn't write that at all in the following page. So this is all that came from it, writing down so what'll often happen is, when my pastors are preaching through a passage, I'll often have another language open in the scriptures, often Latin. So I think I wrote down this particularly catchy phrase, then my translation of the bit of it I liked, and then never did anything with it, which is what these are for. I don't think these lines fit anywhere here, so it's going to get a whole new one. Oops. And after a few weeks, if I don't do anything else with it, it might die, and that's fine. It's like it's the last chance, but it could become something glorious. And actually, you know what? I'm going to write here the Latin and the scripture. Several of you enjoyed my Boomer at Homosassa Springs poem. Well, this is it. The page where it started, sweat-soaked shirt. Where I ended up. Before y'all read it on my Substack. so I did get this one. Good. So here I'm checking to see if I ever got a particular poem down. I did get this one. We've got a whole little word study here that I think nothing is going to come from. So one of the things that is interesting in the circles I run in is the fact that, like in Portuguese and Spanish and Latin, the words for righteousness and justice are the same, which informs both our concepts of righteousness and of justice. Anyway, at some point I was fiddling with that and ended up with this. One of the things that was most interesting, if you can see the Wycliffe thing right there. So let's go to the passage, actually. Amos 5:24. I think we've still got that Bible. Yeah, with 4 up. Amos 5:24. Look at this. The Wycliffe, so Revised Standard Version, but let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. So yeah, you guys have heard that verse before. Look at the Wycliffe Bible. So predating what we think of as the Reformation. And doom shall be showed as water, and right wiseness as a strong stream. So righteousness as right wiseness, right, being pointed in the correct direction. That was righteousness for Wycliffe, right wiseness. Absolutely fascinating. Justice was doom. And Wycliffe went hard from, like, the one thing, like, when I don't like the Wycliffe translation, it's because it was so reliant on the Vulgate. Where's the Vulgate? Latin. Wish this were alphabetical, huh? Be nice. I think it's further down. Can you believe that? Oh, you guys aren't even seeing this. Look at this. None of this is alphabetical. Where's the Vulgate? Latina. It's like semi-alphabetical. So it should be here-ish. There it is. So right wiseness, it was justitia. Isn't that interesting? So righteousness normally gets translated. So Wycliffe, right wiseness, being pointed in the right direction was righteousness, but justice was doom for him. Really interesting. But all that to say, so the whole little word thing, but nothing really came of it as far as producing something. I ended up working off of the phrase rod of God below it. This line will probably die, but These pages here are an example of why I never throw away my notebooks. All of this is just from the story of Eutychus in Acts falling from the third story and dying, or apparently dying. And Paul saying his soul is still in him, and notes kind of talking about how all of our life is like Eutychus's fall, or at least our lives before Christ. So I have lots of notes from this, but nothing to really put in one of these types of documents. So I'm just going to move on. But in a month or in 10 years, I might pull this notebook out of a box and mess with it again. Pecamos nosotros como nuestros padres. Hicimos iniquidad, hicimos impiedad. Nuestros padres no entendieron, no se acordaron. Les hizo ir por el abismo como por un desierto. Se entregaron a un ¿qué? Se entregaron a un deseo desordenado en el desierto y tentaron a Dios en la soledad. There is witchcraft here. Okay. So I underlined what interested me about that. Disordered desire in the desert. Put that here. It's a kind of a linguistic note. Disordered desire in the desert. Se entregaron a un deseo desordenado en el desierto. Puru, 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 puru. So I wrote a poem about God's salvation of Israel through the plagues in Egypt. And one of the lines that inspired me was actually from a sermon that Ben Merkel preached. He was describing the army of the Egyptians bearing down on the children of Israel as they are up against the Red Sea. And Moses encouraging them to gird their loins and whatnot and not bemoan their fate, to see that God is saving them. One of the lines that Ben busted out was, "There is not one firstborn in that army," which I really liked. Then I wrote on top of that, "An army of second sons." That's worth keeping. Maybe do something with it. You know, most of the things I jot down in my notebook end up somewhere, right? So I don't have to do all of this with it. So I had the page before this thing about firstborn armies, I wrote some things about the Romans, cannibal mothers, cannibalism in Rome, the order of the writing of various Roman plays, a note that says meat animals were often strangled to improve taste and texture. And then I took a little break of a couple of days, and a Sunday was clearly among those days because I ended up taking notes on the sermon. Then the poem, I think it ended up being called Cannibal Mother. I ended up just writing that, boom, from a lot of what, from those notes. Oops. So how long ago was that? Founding Foundlings, that's right. So so I actually completed a poem, right? This is usually what happens, is I complete something. So a lot of people didn't necessarily get all of the epigraphs, right? So I quote Coriolanus, "There is a world elsewhere." I just watched the Ralph Fiennes version, and the way he delivered that line was gorgeous. But below it, let's see. Our mother has been gone ever since something of Rome. But the wolf will return, will come back when we celebrate the festal orgy. So it's actually, and this is by Johannes Darnelius. This is John Darnielle, lead singer of the Mountain Goats, which is why people, this is just a Latin version of the lyric. Our mother has been absent ever since we founded Rome, and there's going to be a party when the wolf comes home. And you see the line there, we're going to party when wolf comes home. Our mother has been absent ever since we founded Rome. Anyway, sometimes things are not to be gotten. Like, it's a very fun Easter egg if you actually know Mountain Goats. But I would be a poor poet if I put weight on this to, like, you can't get it unless you've listened to Mountain Goats. That would be unkind. Though still, it was fun. Fun little Easter egg. So more thoughts that are just never going to move off of this notebook. The relationship between Coriolanus and his mother, with some wordplay. Kindness, kingship, kind, kin. So it was helpful to my mind and soul, obviously, to write that stuff out, but I'm never going to do anything with this. Okay. Here's something really half-baked. because I made myself remember a line or two because I was on a drive and I saw the Cascade Mountains while still in the Palouse. It was a very clear day. The vehicle came over a hill and I could see all the way to the Cascades. So I could see across what is a 3.5 hour drive. Just flat. And then the mountains. And it struck me. So I just was playing in my mind, and when I got to a notebook, I wrote some of these words down, so this needs to be saved. But it's also kind of nothing. Right now. So it could be the edge of the world, it could be the end of the world. I liked this. Mounds of round lentils. So this is not a poem. These are just lines I dashed down, words I dashed down. So I will probably revisit them sometime. Oh, yes. Okay. This is actually half a poem. From a misunderstanding. So this is actually kind of fun. All right. So this is straight up something there's an epigraph to this thing. So this is someone's post on Substack. Enjoying this poem when I should be sleeping in Paul J. Pastor's new book, The Locust Years. This is beautiful. Accidentally beautiful. So what she was saying was that she was enjoying a poem rather than sleeping. But what I read was, if you're a pedant, what I read was actually what she wrote. But that would be ridiculous or beautiful. What I read was that she was enjoying a poem rather than sleeping in the book. Enjoying this poem when I should be sleeping in Paul J. Pastor's new book. So I want to write a poem about sleeping in Paul J. Pastor's new book, The Locust Years. So I'm going to get my notes from this page down. Scientists, these are just notes, nothing lyrical here. Scientists find 30 potential new species at the bottom of the deep sea using robots. Oh, this is another quote I read that day that could be misunderstood. Right? So scientists found these species by using robots. But what it actually reads like is that scientists found 30 potential new species which were using robots. Who knew deep sea creatures used robots? All right. So what did I write? I wrote, I am sleeping in Paul J. Pastor's new book, The Locust Years. Rather than I had been reading a poem called Photosynthesis, which used words like veritude and verdigris. But now I am sleeping in this book. A moment ago, a billion mouths. A billion mouths. I must have been inspired to write that by the word photosynthesis. But I have no idea now really why I wrote it. Yep, that's all I wrote about that particular poem. But this looks like something that I'll actually turn into something one day. Veritude and verdigris. But now I am sleeping in this book. Let's give it the temporary title, Sleeping in Paul J. Pastor's new book. Now that's fun. Boo-doo, 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 boo. The terrible conflagration up at the place. Okay, this is a poem I think about often. I have not made any progress on, so it's time to put it up here. To put up or shut up. I mean, I wrote several verses in my head, and they're all gone now. Alas. I love the boys. I love the boys who give and never ask. Carry, let go. Yeah, that's all I have. And I think I had several verses in my head once upon a time. Alas. Boo doo boo doo boo boo. So here are the notes for I Live in My Childhood's Future. Someone on Substack was kind enough to feature today in their list of poetic goings-on Substack. I never did use the phrase atheistic underwear, but it's sitting there. Well, how's everybody doing? I know most of you guys are on X. Several watching from different platforms. Sean todos bienvenidos. Sería interesante saber de qué parte participan ustedes. Love to know where you're watching from. Boo 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 boo. I knew none of their names. Here's something that it's likely nothing will be ever, that I'll probably never do anything with this. So I have a poem called The Burden of Covers I wrote many years ago about the romance of Richie Havens, who was an energetic, lively, and beautiful singer. But he didn't write most of his songs, and none of his famous songs, all of his famous songs were covers. And I called the poem The Burden of Covers. And that idea of being a mediator, of being a vehicle for beauty made by someone else, has always fascinated me. And, and then the degree to which your mediative vehicular participation changes it, brings its own beauty. So I have here the frustration of mediation. Richie Havens came to mind. I'm not sure why I wrote this down. But then Jorge Luis Borges, not being supreme writer in supreme language, I think that's actually what made me write it down, was thinking about the fact that Jorge Luis Borges, a great writer, I have many of his writings on my shelves, Argentinian. He actually taught Old English, among many other things. He was C.S. Lewis, if C.S. Lewis were an Argentinian Jew. I was very satisfied with that line, so I'm going to take a break. Anyway, he, you can find video on YouTube of him talking about what a wonderful language English is. And it's clear when you read him in Spanish that he loves Spanish, that he loves English. And he called English a supreme language. And there are videos of him talking about this in not great English. And so I think the irony of that really struck me, and I thought about the frustration of being an immortal wordsmith, truly. But one who was not at his full powers in the language that he judged to be the most powerful and the most beautiful. So the frustration of mediation. But I don't think I'm going to do anything with it. Here's an idea that I'm not really doing much with right now. Asexual rhymes for celibate times. So limericks, according to some, if a limerick is not bawdy, is not sexual, it's not even a limerick, which is not something I'm going to be, I think people should feel bound by. But so that's why limerick is there are question marks, but asexual rhymes for celibate times. And I thought it might be funny to write poems with heavy sexual double entendres that turn out not to be sexual at all. Yeah, Yoshi over on Twitch. Me and Octavia's baby. Yeah, this is like the old days, the COVID days. Yoshi, I'm going to be in your homeland, but I'm going to be on the other side of it in just a couple of weeks. So assuming you're still in Ontario, I will still be many hundreds of miles away from you. But I'll be in your homeland. So an example of a line that would be an asexual rhyme for celibate times. Back up for me that dump truck. Let me hear it beep. So it's actually about a dump truck. It's not about a butt. But I don't think I'm going to do anything with it. There you were not naked, but covered in cloud. Oh, I wrote that poem. Okay. We're actually kind of getting near the end of the notebook. These are things that are the plenitude of woman, the projection of man. The poet inserts his head into heaven, husband indwells his wife. I think I want to do a poem about masculine versus feminine nature. That's what those lines are for. Yeah, man, just having fun. I love wordplay that plays to thinking deeper. Oh, nice. I'm glad you've been lurking, Yoshi. Yeah, most are lurking. I can see the numbers, folks who are watching. So it's pleasant to know that folks are watching. But it's not like the old days, huh? When we'd be on Twitch and the comments would be flying. Those were good times. But those were COVID times. Here's to the old boys, though, Yoshi. And Octavius, if you're still here. So I always carry about, like in my briefcase at least, I carry my current notebook and my previous one. So I'm not sure if I want to move those lines onto Google Drive yet. I was there when you were looking at your word art with a flock of ducks. Oh, nice. That was fun. Yeah. Got to map it out, got to visualize it. Okay. I've caught up. I'm going to leave this plenitude of woman, projection of man thing in the notebook. I still have about maybe a quarter of the notebook left. So I'll stick with it for now. Boo 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 boo. Pardon me. Okay, I tell you guys what, I am going to take a little break and then come back and do a little Don Quixote translating. All right, so sit tight and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. This is what I got to translate next. What befell our knight when he left the inn? Let's see. It was dawn when Don Quixote left the inn, so content, so glad, so cock of the walk, so pumped up for having been made a knight. Appreciate you, bro. Hey, Post Mill, what's up, my dude? Post Mill still. Finest whiskey in town. How are the boys? Boom, boom. All right. That the joy bent him over. By the horse's belt? It's weird. Let's see what Sincha is. See, this is why I'm always using dictionaries. I don't even know horse vocabulary in English. Yeah. So the leather thingy-doober that attaches the saddle on the horse's back. What is that called? If I read it in English, I would know. Okay. And that is why we use reverso. Strap. It's not called a strap. Cinch? No. I needed it for horses. Carl, good night. I will be seeing you soon, I am sure. Appreciate you stopping in. Your health. Why don't we take this moment, since Huskarl is leaving us in our heartbreaks, to enjoy some snuff, McChrystal's aniseed, a gift from a pastor friend of mine. This stuff is very fine indeed. This may be my favorite snuff of all time. Prime streaming content. Okay. I think this may actually call for a little use of grok. This is how I use AI, y'all. What are some names for the strap belt that attaches the saddle to the horse? Okay. I feel like I can come up with something better. Yeah, this man knows what I'm talking about. I'm not loving my results though. Let's see what the actual translation looks like. I'm doing a lot of putzing around. All right. It was dawn when Don Quixote left the inn, so content, so cock of the walk. So very happy, so glad, so gallardo. Yeah, I didn't want to say gallant, and I don't want to say gallant. Debonair could be good. Dashing. Devil may care. I may do devil may care. So what's the next one? Yeah, alborozado, I would say pumped up. So full of vim. Okay. So devil may care. So, and you know what? I'm going to say careless. So careless, meaning without cares, but with that fun double entendre. So content, so careless. So careless and carefree. How about that? And what did I say I was going to do for Alborada? So full of vim. So full of vim. For having been made a knight, ordained a knight, been made a knight. That his joy had him bent over the straps of his horse. Might have to go back for that, but as the counsels of his host regarding the necessary precautions he must take regarding his own self came to his mind, especially regarding coin and shirts. He decided to return home and outfit himself with everything he needed, as well as a shield man, a squire, thinking to receive a farmhand to receive a neighbor of his who was a farmhand poor and having children, but very meet, very fit, but very fit for the purpose. Very fit for the shield bearing office. I like that I get to work in the idea of shields, a squire. Escudero is shield man, shielder, which squire doesn't convey. Shield bearing office of the knighthood. Hi Marco, how you doing? Good to hear from you. Are you watching from Joffrey the Giant, Brazil? With this thought, he guided Rocinante to his village. The witch, La Querencia. I'm well, thank you. It's passing the time, getting a little done. Man, I've been doing all this translating without sharing the screen with you guys. I'm sorry. So sorry. Let's look at Querencia. Requirements. Fondness. Doesn't get it. Okay. I don't like that. Let's look at the RAE dictionary. Acción de amar o querer bien. Okay. Have I quit smoking? No. But I probably only smoke like maybe once a month now. So I've not quit, but I do smoke a lot less now. I rent now. And then in the winters, it's cold. So I've just ended up smoking a lot less. So for those who don't know, my online presence had a lot to do with pipe smoking back in the day, which is how Marco and I know each other. Casi conociendo la querencia, almost knowing which excited such affection in him that the desire his enthusiasm and let's see, with his thought he got represented to his village, toward his village. That's better for Asia, and that helps with the rest of it, toward his village, which excited such affection in him that his walk became more enthusiastic. And that he began to walk so enthusiastically that it seemed to him that his feet hardly touched the ground. Boo 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 boo. By the way, guys, you are welcome to come visit me. So if you're watching this and you'd like to come say hi in person, you just need to click on that. Okay. He had not walked far when it seemed to him that at his right hand the thickness of a wood that was there, from the thinness de la espesura de un bosque que ahí estaba. Yeah, I'm just going to say from within for now. From within a grove that was there, delicate voices emerged. As of people who argued, who were arguing. And having heard them, he said, let's see, have I done this? Yeah. Okay. Boom, boom. I give thanks to heaven for the honor that you do me. That it does me. It's heaven that does the honor. For it so frequently, so often, puts before me occasions upon which I may accomplish that which I owe in my profession, and from which I might harvest the fruit of my good desires. These voices, without doubt, without a doubt, these voices are of some worthy. All right, so this word actually shows up a lot in this book. Worthy one. Let's get a refresher. Some needful one. Yeah. How have I handled this before? I've definitely dealt with it. All right, let's just rock. Some needful person this is funny, let's keep the repetition. Some needful person, needful of my favor and aid. And taking up the reins, he pointed Rocinante toward the place where it seemed to him that the voices were coming from. Yeah, no worries, my dude. Just tossing it out there. That would signal sort of the end of the stream as people did that. Boom. I know when you go live, you're always invisible. So I would not expect it. Oh, excuse me. So I have the snuff. I must blow the schnoz. There we go. Boo-da, 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 boo. All right. So we're approaching one of the defining moments of the book. And a few steps into the grove, he saw. What is the problem with grove? Unbelievable. A mare tied to a stump. Let's check on Encina. What is happening? Encina. Okay, it's a particular tree. All right, I'll show you guys a little language trick. If you want to do better than like a translating app, especially when it comes to how people actually talk about a thing, you go to Wikipedia. Well, in the language you're working from, so I have to go to Wikipedia Spanish. Oh, exclamation. Get rid of EN. I don't want EN. Arc. Okay. Wikipedia.org. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to look up Encina. Don't tell me it's another word for oak. Is that an oak? Yeah, that is an oak. I was going to say querque, like Albuquerque is white oak. So it's just another word for oak. Anyway, go to English. The holly oak. Okay, so it's a specific oak, I guess. So I can say oak or I can say holly. Let's see. Tied to a holly oak. I actually kind of like that. That sounds nice. Holly oak. Does Don Quixote have pictures, and would your translation have pictures? My translation will have pictures by my wife. Yeah, so here, I'll show you. Boo-da-boo-da-boo-da-boo. Here's one of the pictures she's made. Yeah, oh, it's great. Super pumped about it. So she's done, I think, only 2, maybe 3. This is my wife's Etsy shop. How far back do I have to go, I wonder, for Don Quixote? She does these lino cuts that are very cool. People love this cat. Yeah, so there's the Don Quixote, La Mancha, she called that piece. Here's a portrait of Quixote. Those may be the only ones she's done so far. But pretty cool. So yes, there will be pictures. Yeah, and there have been many editions over the centuries, of course, and there have been many, many illustrations. And Gustave Doré, who's famous for illustrating a lot of the great works of Westernness, has a great set of illustrations for Quixote. Lino cut sounds relaxing to learn. Agreed. Yeah, she'll go at it for hours. You saw a mare tied to a holly oak, and a boy, and a lad, and a lad tied. So a mare tied to one holly oak, and a lad tied to another. The boy, okay, and a youth. Then I'll say boy, and a youth tied to another. The boy was naked from the waist up. About 15 years old. And it was he who had been giving voice to the complaints. I believe I said earlier that he was complaining. Arguing, complaining, and complaining. This was not without cause. For a harvester. Yeah, labrador de buen talle, a well-dressed farmer. I guess farmer. What are options as well-dressed, well-built, well-dressed? For a well-dressed farmer. Was what are my options? No, the cause for a well-dressed farmer was using his buckle and belt and buckle to strike his back, we'll say, and each blow he would deliver, accompanied by chastisement and counsel. For he said, the tongue, la lengua queda y los ojos listos. The tongue quiet, we'll say, and the eyes tongue down. Let's do tongue down, eyes up. And the boy would respond, I won't do it again. My lord, my master, my lord, by God's passion, I shall not do it again. And I promise. Lindo, ¿no? Jesús, bienvenido. Ya liste por completo. And I promise. Con el ato, con el ato, con el ato, ato. Un hato de pícaros, de tontos, ropa y otros objetos que alguien tiene para el uso preciso y ordinario. Ay, ay. Hato. Herd. Okay. Nada a ver. Ah. Okay. Okay. El uso en el Quijote es el octavo que aparece. Buenísimo. Fuiste bien educado entonces. ¿De qué parte eres? ¿De qué país? Okay, so with the herd. And from here on out, I promise to take better care, to be more careful with the herd. And seeing what was taking place. Don Quijote de México. ¿Puedo preguntar de qué parte de México? Central, norte, sur. Seeing what was taking place, Don Quixote said in a loud voice doesn't quite do justice. The voz airada, in a booming voice. Discourteous knight, it is unseemly that you should set upon one who cannot defend himself. Mount thy horse and take up thy lance. Del norte de México. Una duda. De cero. Sí, claro, no. Claro, existen varias. Pero en mi soberba opinión, puedo hacer un mejor trabajo. Claro que puedes oír que mi castellano no es así, es bueno, soy fluente, pero no soy nativo y no llega a un nivel donde puedo producir algo en castellano. Pero llega al nivel, sí, de poder, mi inglés llega al nivel de poder traer algo en castellano a un inglés lindo. Y me parece que las traducciones que existen, y son varias por los siglos, ¿no? Pero en mi opinión no alcanzan la belleza, ¿sabe? Y el más importante, que no son tan cómicos. Son más... La comedia en las traducciones al inglés es comedia más viciosa, ¿sabe? Más cruel. Y claro que eso está presente en Quijote, pero la alegría de la época medieval, que el Quijote, claro, que es, así dicen que es una de las primeras novelas modernas. Es moderna, sí, pero al mismo tiempo es bien cristiano y bien medieval. Y tiene este humor más... Sí, humor más de payasada. Así un humor más abierto y honesto. Y yo quiero traer este elemento también. Y no apenas el cinicismo y sarcasmo, que son el único humor que están presentes en las versiones en inglés. Ahí está. Comprendo mi inglés también es bastante malo. Ahí está. La única parte de México que he conocido es el norte. Y así, digo que conocí al norte, es mentira. Conocí a Juárez, visité a Juárez un par de veces. Que claro que eso no es conocer al norte. Okay, take up thy lance. Okay, so that's the end of the quote. Let's put this in parentheses for now. Or he had a spear, I'll say. Leaning. So he had left his spear leaning upon the holly where the mare was tied. Take up thy lance. And I will cause you to know to be known as the cowards you are for what you are doing. Es un modo interesante la sátira bastante presente en el Quijote, sí, claro, bastante sátira. Pero una de las cosas que se ve en la literatura por lo general y en las artes es que hay sátira que existe apenas para destrozar algo, ¿sabe? Para derribar a sus fundaciones y mostrar la hipocresía o la crueldad o lo que sea, ¿no? Pero también hay sátira que es una sátira de cariño, ¿no? Así podríamos decir que El Chavo del Ocho es una sátira sobre la sociedad mexicana y que apunta a cosas que son malas sobre la cultura mexicana, la sociedad mexicana, pero se hace con bastante amor, con bastante cariño. Esa parte de la sátira, en mi opinión, es bastante presente en el Quijote, pero no está presente en las traducciones al inglés. This bit could be better, far better. I will come back to it. As far as the English goes, the translation is done, but the English could be better. The farmer who saw this fully armed figure, who saw that, we'll say, saw that this fully armed figure was riding up on him and brandishing a spear about his face, took himself for dead, and with fine words replied. Me ha interesado ahora leer el Quijote en inglés, me intriga la traducción. Bueno, hay sí por ahí. Pero mira, sugiero que sigas mi proyecto, que está en Substack. Si te interesa, y ahí no tendrás que leer la cosa entera, podrás seguir por capítulo. Entonces, el caballero de la triste figura, del triste rostro, the knight of sad semblance. Entonces, ahí está mi Quijote. Entonces, aquí, por ejemplo, puedes leer mi traducción del capítulo 3. Estoy trabajando ahora el capítulo 4. Y el Substack te manda un email. Entonces, pondré Veo que estás en YouTube, debes de estar en el Joffrey the Giant español, ¿no? Pongan en los comentarios un link para ti. Ahí. Y si quieres, puedes te inscribir y seguir capítulo por capítulo cuando yo complete uno. All right. Yeah, this adventure is just getting started. So I'll do this line and then be done for the night, I think. Find words reply. Lord Knight. This boy I am punishing is my servant. And he serves me by keeping a herd of sheep that I have in these hills parts. This is an interesting phrasing. Yeah, so what's a good word for that? In these environs, no. The areas near a town, in these nearby pastures, maybe. And it's to say in these parts. By keeping a herd of sheep that I have in these parts. And he is so careless that each day I find that one more is lacking. And because I punish. Contorno, bueno, yo decidí colocar como parts por esas partes. Porque yo pensé en una palabra que sí sirve como contorno, pero es demasiado formal en inglés. Pero me encanta este site aquí, context.reverso.net. Entonces, reverso. Ahí se ve lo que otros han hecho, pero muchas veces se ve así aplicativos de traducción o alguna porquería de traducción que alguien hizo, pero así se puede ver la mayor opinión y las varias opciones por contexto que la gente utilizó. Entonces, contorno, pongo aquí. Sí, entonces, contorno está traduciendo aquí la parte más geométrica. Entonces, contour es contorno. Se puede usar de forma topográfica, pero tiene muchísimo a ver con líneas, con geometría. Outline también, línea, ¿no? Pero él quiere decir que son las tierras cercanas, ¿no? Las tierras cercanas que quedan así cerca del pueblo, etcétera. Entonces, por eso puse esas partes. Background, no sé, no, la pantalla detrás, ¿no? Around, cercano, por allí. Sí. Entonces es una palabra que la forma en que es usada para hablar de lugares en español no existe una traducción exacta. Because I punish and because I punish his carelessness o bellaquería. Or his hoodlum, roguery, rascal. Okay, or his rascalry. He now says that I have made him miserably poor for not having paid him the salary I owe him. And by God and my soul, he lies. Ok, Jesús, los demás, si todavía están por allí, Yoshi, Marco, Postmill, todos los demás, I appreciate you guys watching. I will pop on again one of these days. Hopefully, Octavius commented he sees me once every 2 years. It'll be sooner than that. Thanks for following along, and good night to all. Buenísimas noches. Boa noite, meus queridos. See ya.